everyone. I'm so excited that you're back for another episode of The Table. It has been an incredible year, and I'm excited for May because it's Mama Month, and I have some really, really special guests. And of course, we're going to have tons of fun. It's going to be organic, transparent. We're going to give you all the goodie. So get ready. It's going to be amazing. So without further ado, I want to introduce our guest for this month, which is Kariss. And I'm going to give her an opportunity to introduce herself and tell you a little bit about her and what makes her pretty darn amazing.
Hi, my name is Kariss Farris. I am a wife. I'm a wife of 7 years. I'm a mom to 3, a girl who's 5, a boy who's 3, and another girl who is 7 months.
Wow.
I own my own business alongside my husband. We own a media and marketing company. I specialize in wedding and lifestyle photography, and my husband specializes in commercial media production and marketing. And we both kind of cross over in what we do. He helps me on certain collections. He'll shoot weddings with me because that's kind of where we started.
Yeah.
And then on the business side, I really act as like a general manager as well to the 5 employees that we have. And so, we dip back and forth in each other's stuff.
Yeah.
And then on the side, I love to write about Jesus and
Yeah.
just how he influences, or more than influences, that all of my life really centers around him. And I just like to kind of tell stories about him through what happens in my day-to-day life.
So would you consider the writing to be your passion pursuit? Or
Um,
do you think something else is your passion pursuit? Tell us about that.
I think that everything that I'm doing currently is a passion pursuit. My
My kind
children
of
are
girl.
a passion pursuit. My husband is a passion pursuit. I love photography. So
Yep.
the
Yep.
few weddings that I do still shoot are a passion pursuit of mine.
Yeah.
I love being able to be the essential collaborator for my husband by being the general manager at our office and making sure that things get done. And I love writing. So I've been very intentional to make sure that everything that I'm doing is purposeful and is a passion pursuit.
Put a pin in that, y'all, because today's topic is seek and find. And we're going to be diving deep into how to effectively seek God in the everyday as a wife, a mom, a businesswoman, pretty much everything that she just listed. That's what we're going to be diving deep into, and how to seek him in the everyday, because it wouldn't be a passion for her. It wouldn't be something that she loves or that she's able to fully invest in if she wasn't also fully investing what God has given her into it, right? So we're going to dive into that. So how did you make the decision to take the leap of faith to trust God with your everyday, not just the big things? So everything you just listed,
Yeah.
you're trusting God with.
Yeah, I think that it wasn't a decision for me. It was a recognition of my constant need for him. So
Okay.
it wasn't like I'm gonna decide to follow Jesus now. Like it was just like oh, I can't do this without him.
Right.
Whoa, and I think that there are levels to that.
Of course.
In college, the level of me deciding, okay, I need Jesus had a lot to do with like my relationships
True,
and
true, true.
really needing him in my relationships. And then
Yeah.
when I got married, it was like needing him because I'm like, I don't know how to do this and I don't know how to balance like motherhood and
Yeah.
all of that. And so I think that at different levels, there was a recognition of a need. And so it was like less of a decision of a leap of faith to trust and more of like a recognition of a need to trust him and follow him, if that makes sense.
Right. So it's less of a
And
decision, less of a choice. It was like, you need to do this.
yeah.
Has to, this has to happen.
Yeah, and I think to kind of like dive deeper into that, I
Yes.
think that the reason why for me it's less of a decision is because typically for me it's really hard for me to make myself do things that I don't
Mm,
want to do.
okay.
Okay, and yeah, and so I could like want something with all of my might, but
Yeah.
for some reason it always seems like no matter how bad I want it, the decision to do it, I can't always like make
Mm,
that turn over. And
got
so
it. Okay.
for me in my life, what that's looked like is it plays out in a lot of different ways, but what that looks like for me to actually like overturn and, do the action or make the decision
Yeah.
is out of a need. Is like, oh, I cannot, like, I don't really have a choice out of this. It's kind of like, you're getting up to, you're coming up to a test that you have to take.
Oh,
And it's like the night before, and you're like, I don't have an option of when or where I can study. I have to do this because if I don't,
right.
I'm going to fail the test. So that's, I feel like in my life, a lot of the time, it's me coming up like against the need that I have.
Yeah.
You know,
And how
so
did
yeah,
you
if that makes sense.
so no, it makes a lot of sense, but prioritizing your needs because you kind of hit on a little bit like sometimes we want to focus on our wants or those
Mhm.
things that we feel like make us happy and ooh, this is what I really really want. How did you learn to prioritize the needs over your wants? Because there is a difference.
Yeah. Yeah. I think that that's a good question. I
Yeah.
feel like, yeah, I'm trying to answer it in a good way. Ask it one more time.
Okay.
I can
So how
digest it.
did you yeah. So you've been talking about your needs and that's kind of what
Yeah.
pushed you to understanding that you had to include God in your everyday, right?
Mhm, mhm,
But
mhm.
you also talked about sometimes you have these wants and you
Yes.
really want to do it and you really it's just not coming together. But there's
Yeah.
a lot of us who have these wants and it may not be coming together, but we have not put it down, right? So how did you learn to prioritize your needs over your wants? Because
Okay.
there's a big difference between the two.
There is a big difference between the two. However, this is why I was struggling to answer this because, yes, although there is a difference between the two, I believe that first you have to be aligned with Christ.
Okay.
And when you're aligned, your needs and wants are aligned as well. And that there's not a big of a difference as what my needs are and what my wants are. It's
Mhm.
aligned because you know that what you need is what you want and what you want is what you need because totally and completely you're aligned underneath like what God's purpose is for your life.
Okay.
And so that's how I would answer that question, I
That's
guess.
how I would answer that question.
Great.
I always look for affirmation. I like that. But it's really important, I think, for the girls to hear
Yeah.
because it really requires relationship with Christ,
Hmm. Hmm.
right? It's not just I speak really well and I can quote a few scriptures. It's actual relationship so that you can hear him, so that you can be in alignment, right?
Yeah,
Because the
totally.
word also talks about that too, like praying amiss. Like some of you praying for things, you're like, I ain't talked to you about that. Where that came
Yeah.
from? But
Yeah.
when you begin to actually build a relationship with him, then your wants begin to shift, right?
Mhm.
And they begin to align with the needs, which is really what he's responding to, because in provision, he's responding to your needs first. And that
Absolutely.
encompasses your wants. And so I think it's really good for the girls to hear like, you can have everything that you're wanting if it's in alignment. And who
Yeah.
it's in alignment with is what makes the difference. And
Yeah.
that's how prioritization happens.
Yeah. And your wants changed based off of your alignment. So like,
Yeah.
let's say, I want a man that I know I shouldn't want.
Okay. Mhm,
You know what I mean?
mhm.
Sometimes there's men that you want, but you shouldn't want them. And if
Yeah.
you're not under alignment, it'll be very unclear on whether or not you should want them and whether or
Mhm.
not you should have, them. And this is just an example, but
For
when you
sure.
are under alignment, you're able to clearly see, oh, this is not the man that God wants for me, so I don't want it either. And so that's, just an example of the way that it trickles down.
Absolutely. There's also the reality that sometimes you don't need the Holy Spirit to tell you, you know better.
You
There's
know
gonna be
better.
things you know better. Like there's gonna be things that you're wanting, you're like, this is probably
Yeah.
a really bad idea.
Yeah.
Go with that. Like
Go with that.
go
Amen.
go with that. Like
Yeah.
it's a whole thing. So as we kind of go a little further in this, what advice would you give to those who may struggle with doing what's expected
Yeah.
versus what they felt God was calling you to do?
Um, I would say to me, if you're going with what's expected and
Mhm.
not with what God is challenging to you to do, the issue is more with your trust in God. And that's what you should be challenging. Because if you don't trust God enough to do what he's telling you to do, the issue is your trust and not the decision to leave, what's comfortable and what's expected versus what God is calling you to do. Because if you don't believe he'll take care of you, if he's calling you to do it, that's the
Yeah.
problem.
Okay. 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 All right. We're gonna run that back a couple of times. Yep. I think that that's good. I love that because it really forces us to look at ourselves. And a
Mhm.
lot of times we want to project, like, well, this is what is expected of us, and this is what other people want. And so I have to fulfill this. But what about what you're thinking and what your insecurities are and what's holding you back? Right.
Yeah,
Because we just talked about this, like you're building relationship, you're trying to dive deeper into what it is that he's called you to be. So why are you worried?
yeah.
What is the fear that's taken root?
Yeah.
Right.
And I think, obviously you want to listen to wise counsel. And, if you have a
For
mentor
sure.
or an older woman who has walked out her faith in her life and has wisdom to pour into you, then definitely listen to that. But I think there's a difference between doing what's expected of you because people who don't know you and don't have anything wise to say are adding input versus listening to wise counsel. Like, for example, my husband, when I went full time, in our business about 6 months after college. And
Oh,
I never really I had a day job for maybe 6 months. And then I kind of went full time into this. But he was working as a mechanical engineer for really since he graduated college. He was doing that. He had a job right out of school and started with that. And there came a point where he was having to take unpaid days off because we were shooting so many weddings and we were traveling
wow.
for that. And he had kind of come to the end of himself. And I was always like, quit your job. It'll be fine. Like, it'll work out. Don't worry about it. Like, we're making good money with this. Like,
Work.
it'll be cool. And he was like, no, we need to have like a plan. Like, I can't just quit like and hope
Yeah.
that it works out. Like,
Yeah.
we
Yeah. Yeah.
need to have a plan. So, and he did come up with a plan. And so when he quit his job, since there, it has been nothing but growth. But I will say that there is a balance. I was on one end of the extreme of it'll work out. And he was on the other end of the extreme with like, no, we have to have a plan.
Yeah.
But obviously, like we were married, and so it was balance in that way. But if you're making this decision on your own, there is balance. So, like let's say you have a day job and you're wanting this passion pursuit,
Yeah.
there is a balance between saying, okay, Lord, how can, this passion pursuit finance my life or finance my needs,
Real
and I'm
talk.
not talking
Real
about
talk.
my life is in, I need $500 a month to shop.
No.
No, no, no. I'm talking about the needs that the Lord talks about in his word that he will cover. Your
That.
food, your shelter, the bare minimum. I'm not talking about luxury here. I'm
No.
saying
No. No.
what does God promise you he will provide you? And
Yeah.
then make a plan. Okay, Lord, with what you've given me, how can I do what you've asked me to do or what you're saying is my purpose here? And make a plan and also know you're just going to have to trust him.
That mm, that's the thing. That's
Yeah.
a because a lot of times, like you said, it's either one of the extremes. Either we have planned that bad boy out until
Yeah.
it's probably dead,
Yeah.
or we've leapt and have no parachute.
Yeah.
And there has to be a balance. You have to figure that out. But I love what you said when you're like, how does this align with what you want me to do? And how can I trust you to provide for those things that you've talked about in your word? Not these luxury items,
Yeah.
not this extra stuff that we see on the gram,
Yeah.
but really the things that we actually need that will help us in our everyday lives to function and to thrive. How can this passion pursuit or what I believe is my purpose help to finance that? Because I don't believe that God wants us to live destitute. I don't believe that.
Yeah. No, I don't believe that either. And I believe that if you're living according to his word, you won't be destitute.
Doop, doop. That's a thing. Put a pin
Yeah.
in that. Put a pin in that because you have to live according to his word, which
Yeah.
goes back to what we talked about in the beginning. Have actual relationship with him so that he can download things into you and he can make it clear what his direction is for you. Because sometimes, and I'll say this, like there have been times where I thought there were certain passion pursuits or purposes, and I had created those. They weren't necessarily from the Holy Spirit. I was good at them, but I wouldn't necessarily say that the Holy Spirit sat down with me and said, Petra, this is a good idea for you.
Mhm.
And I think that you have to really begin to tap into what he has designed for your life and then
Yeah.
how to make that work, right?
Yeah, totally. I think that that a lot of times, like in the past when I've done that, it's almost like you're having to force open doors versus doors flying open. And if you have to force open doors, and you need to relook at what you think is your purpose, because if you're living in your purpose, doors won't have to be forced open.
It's a thing.
Yeah.
It's a thing. I literally just made a post about that. Like we get so caught up in looking at other people or what other people have told us our purpose is or what we're good at. So that just has to be it. And then you're really behind the scenes forcing things to happen and you've
Yeah.
missed the voice of God completely. And then you're wondering, why am I living beneath where I think I should be? Because
Mhm.
again, we don't believe that God believes you should be destitute.
Yeah. No, not at all.
We don't believe
I
that. It's not a thing, y'all. It's just not a thing. So I want us to keep because there you have a testimony, as all of us do, right?
Yeah.
So one thing that I admire about you, and as I began to follow you, is your transparency about loss, anxiety, growth, all of those things, right? And you seem to have discovered that you had to make conscious decisions about faith, even when it was difficult. So how did you get to that space of trusting God? Because you've been talking about trust this entire conversation.
Yeah, yes. Yes.
I
Yes.
listen. Mhm.
So I'll say this.
All right.
I can talk about trust a lot, or
Mhm.
the reason why it's easy for me to talk about trust a lot is because trust is easy for me. And that is not, I will say that is that purely is a product of my upbringing.
Mhm.
Um, but what has been difficult for me is the works aspect. Okay. So I'm
Let's
twisting
go
it a
in.
little
Let's
bit.
go in. Yes. Go in.
A little bit. So trust has been easy for me because I grew up in a very,
Yeah.
faith-based home. My grandfather is a pastor.
Mhm.
All of my family, like my mom and my aunts and uncles, are in ministry.
Yep.
I grew up around that. I grew up at conferences. I grew up traveling with them as they
It
were
was the
going into
norm.
ministry. That was normal.
Yeah.
Belief was the norm for me.
Yeah.
And also, I grew up in a single parent household initially. My mom did get married when I was 10, but my grandfather really kind of acted as that father figure. And really, for my whole life, he has been a cushion when I
Mhm.
fall.
I understand.
He is 100% the reason why I have not had any major just
Dive.
downturns in my life, because anytime that it looked like I was going down, he pulled me from the situation. Um,
Here. Come
yeah,
on here.
yep, he pulled me from it. And so largely in part, our fathers
Yeah. Yeah.
are the uh, largely are how we innately view Jesus as our father.
Very true.
And so he, as the father figure for me, was very trustworthy. I still to this day have no reason not to trust anything he says or does. And so
Yeah.
for me,
That was
that
easy.
makes trusting Jesus easy.
That does. You make a good point.
Okay. Okay. So let me start there. Now, for those who have an issue with trusting Jesus, honestly, that's something I can't fully speak to. And I'm not even going to pretend like I can.
I
Um,
appreciate that you're honest.
Yeah, because that's not my story. But what is my story
Let's go.
is now that I have the trust,
Yeah.
y- people who trust is easy for,
Yeah.
it's easy to believe that no matter what you do, you
Yeah.
will fall back into glory.
You're right.
That you will be able to fall and somebody will be there to pick you up, and that it will be fine
It's all gonna come together.
regardless of what you it's all gonna come together. It's all gonna come together. And it's easy to like not acknowledge that it may not, depending on your actions. Depending on your actions.
Yeah.
A great, I mean, and this is transparent as it gets, a great
Yeah.
example. I went to Baylor.
Yeah.
I wanted to go to Baylor my whole life because my uncle played football at Baylor, and
Oh.
almost every weekend for 4 years growing up, we were in Waco at Baylor football
Oh,
games. And so
wow.
a huge part of my upbringing
Yeah.
was
Yeah.
Baylor
Yeah.
football. And so I was like, I'm gonna go to Baylor. I love that school. That's
You'll
where I
be
want to
there.
be. I can be close to home. Like I'm gonna be. And my grandfather was like, all right, you want to go to Baylor? Here, you can go to Baylor. Here you go to Baylor. And I had some, a little bit of scholarships, but large in part, he was like, go to Baylor. My mom was like, you're not ready for Baylor.
Why
Right?
does it sound like my own parents?
Mom was like, no, sweetheart, you're not ready for Baylor. But my stepdad, who's really my dad, and my grandfather were like, let her go, whatever, let her go. I was not ready for Baylor. Okay, I was not ready for Baylor. Yeah, I wasn't ready for Baylor. Not because I wasn't smart enough, but because I hadn't learned well enough
Mm,
that you have to earn what you get. You have to
mm.
study hard. You have to apply yourself. I
Yeah.
was at Baylor for a good time and for a husband, which I did get, but I applied
Yeah.
myself for that. Okay. I applied myself to get a good husband. But that being said, there is a works portion
Yep. Yep.
that
Yep.
is involved, even
Mhm.
if you have, the trust that it'll all work out. Baylor happened because I had the trust that it would happen. Did I finish? No, I did not finish at Baylor like I wanted to because I didn't have the works to see it through. And so that's my point is that like, yes, you can have the trust and the trust is great. You need
Yeah.
the trust. The trust
Yeah.
is essential, but so is the works part that gets you through. Does
Um,
that make sense?
yeah.
Okay.
Sure does. Sure. I think every last person listening to our conversation has a moment just like that.
Well, I hope so. It's
Hello?
important.
I mean, I think if you're going to mature at all outside of the covering of your parents or your guardians or whomever, everyone has a Baylor moment
Mhm.
because you have to learn yourself,
Yeah.
right? Like
Yeah.
we learned who we are to our parents and under our parents, but we haven't necessarily learned ourselves until we have that Baylor moment. And we're looking around and we're like, oh, so I'm not as lit. I'm not as lit as I thought. Okay. Um, I need to work on that.
Mhm.
It's a thing.
Yeah.
It's a thing, and it takes it takes some real self-awareness.
Yeah.
It
Yeah.
takes and
And I didn't have that self-awareness while I was at Baylor. To me, everything was the problem but me.
I was about to go there. I was like, I wondered if you felt okay. Mhm.
Oh no, 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 no. That self-awareness was not immediate. Now I've gotten faster in my self-awareness.
Okay.
Now it like takes me about a week or two to like be out of my situation and be able to see what really is the root and like what God is teaching me.
Yeah, yeah,
But
yeah.
then it took a long time. I was everything was a problem. I couldn't focus. I couldn't apply myself. But really, in all honesty, I was chilling. I was having fun with my friends. I was doing extracurricular things.
You were
And then
living.
yeah, I was living my life. Yes, it was fun. It was fun. It was fun. I love Baylor because it was fun. But when really like I'm not when Josh and I started dating,
Okay. All right, I'm ready. Come on. Come through.
when Josh and I started dating,
Uh-huh.
let me just say this. When I was younger,
Okay.
let me start back. I remember the first time somebody asked me what I wanted to be when I grew up. I probably was like 10 or something. And I said, I want to be a wife and a mom.
Wow.
And from that point until I left the house to go to college, that was my answer. I want to be a wife and a mom. That was
Wow.
my answer. Now, there were things that I loved to do.
Sure, sure, sure,
And
sure.
I knew the natural next step was college. And so I went to school for fashion design because I had sewed a lot all my life. I just love that. And so I went to school for fashion design because natural next step is school. If I got to choose something, I'm going to choose something I like to do.
Sure.
But my answer to that question has never wavered. I have always wanted to be wife and mom. So while I was at Baylor, I was hunting. Now I was cute about it. I wasn't thirsty about
Right,
it.
right. We're
I
not
was
that.
I was very selective. I was always looking.
Mm.
I was like, nope, you're disqualified. You don't love the Lord enough. Nope, you don't have a good reputation. No, your peers do not talk to you with respect. I was very selective, and I had a great process. We can get into that. But once I got a man, so let's take it back to once I got Josh, once Josh and I really started talking, I was like, I got what I came here for. I got my MRS degree, right?
We're done.
Now, I was putting in works then. And so I was like, what do you need to graduate? You need food while you're studying? I got you. You need quiet space? I reserved this library for you. Like, I was working.
It was handled. You hear me?
I was working on him. I was like, what do you? And I had that ring in a year. So.
Hello, somebody. Hello, somebody.
We've gotten so sidetracked. I don't even remember what we were talking about. Oh. Anyway, we were talking about trusting God, I believe. And the works.
And the works. That's the works. I was going to ask you for some practical tips.
No.
How to y'all, let me just go to the side one more time. I told this girl before we got on the call, I said, you can be my best friend for a few minutes because it's been a day. And it has happened.
I love it.
But no, I want you to give the girls some tips on how to tap into the works, like how to do that. Because the trust, you had that, but you had to learn how to put the works into effect. So how did you get there?
Yeah. Reverse engineer your life. Reverse engineer your life. That is what Josh does. My husband, he is extremely visionary. He is extremely future minded. And so that's what he's taught me to do, is to reverse engineer. So what do you want your life to look like when you're 60? When you're 60, where do you want to be? Do you want to be married? Do you want to have children? Do you want to have grandchildren? Do you want to still be working? What do you want to be working on? Do you want, in what way when you're 60 will you still be fulfilling God's purposes? Because don't get it twisted, we're not here for ourselves. We're here for him. And so when you're thinking about this future thought, in what way is what you're doing going to be glorifying God? If we're not here to glorify him, we're not here. So think through very clearly now what you want to be doing. Think about it for 60, then say, okay, if I want that at 60 or 80, you can even go further, 80, 100. Yeah. Then what does that mean I need to be doing at 50? Okay, what does that mean I need to be doing at 40? What does that mean I need to be doing at 30? My husband, Josh, it still blows my mind. And I haven't gone out as far as he has. I've probably gone out to like 45 mentally, but it's okay because he's at like 97.
Okay. All right. So we good.
Yes. Yes. I'm following his lordship in our home. Okay. So, but really, you have to work your way backwards. Yeah. And then from there, you can say, what do I have to do today? What has to be done today? And so to make yourself do the things you don't want to do, right. You have to think about what you want. What do you want?
That's
what do you want? Okay. And so now that you've carefully thought out what it is that you want 40 years from now, yeah, if you really want it, this is what you have to do today to get it. So I think every day for me, and I've worked up to this, I was not this way. I was not this way. I'm not going to sit here and act like I was this way. I remember when probably like in the first, year after I really started doing this full-time photography and the weddings and all of that, Josh was still going into the office. He was working. Sure. And I remember, boy, my nap life was everything. I was napping, maybe twice a day for an hour. I was basically like a 6-month-old with my nap schedule. Now, mind you, I was pregnant. So
right, I was going to ask you,
I'll give myself the benefit of the doubt here. I was pregnant. But still, like I was watching, Law and Order things. Yes. but very little work was actually happening. Like we could have gotten to where we are now faster if I was working harder then.
Okay, I got
And
you.
so I will say, like, definitely there was a little bit of laziness.
Mhm.
There was a little bit of like lack of motivation, but I think that that was because I didn't have vision.
Yeah, vision.
I didn't the when I was younger, the furthest in my mind that I had gotten was I wanted to be my wife and a mom. Well, I was pregnant and I had a man.
You had a man.
So then I had to mentally, like, it took a long time for me to say, okay, there's like I need to
I need
think.
more.
I need more. I need more, and I need to think through what I'm going to do today for
Yeah.
that more.
Wow. I
Yeah,
love that though. So reverse engineer your mind.
yeah, your life.
I like that. Your whole life,
Yeah,
really. Your
yeah,
whole life. But that starts by how you govern your mind, right?
yeah,
You have to bring
absolutely.
your thoughts under subjection.
Yeah, and when you're doing that, you still have to be careful
Mm,
because yes, you're planning. Man plans, so
yeah,
yes, it's okay to plan, but know that your plans don't always come to be, and that's okay.
and that's
But as long as you're planning and you're following what God has said in his word, obeying what he has said, not
that
what you feel, not what your friends think you should be doing, what he has said. He has written you a whole book with instructions.
the whole thing, y'all. I
The
got
whole
around
thing
here.
is
That's
instructions
it.
on what you're supposed to be doing. So plan with those instructions in mind and then realize life will probably not go as planned.
And it's okay.
And that's fine. You just adjust, you reset. I thought I was gonna be a housewife
Mhm.
chilling, baking cookies. Hi, honey, welcome home. I'm sitting here working. I am working like 7 days a week, 24/7, 365. I am working. That was not
I
the
have a
plan.
whole nother job. A whole nother
My
job.
job was supposed to be looking cute,
Ugh,
raising children.
children's, just children.
Which, and that's a small part of it,
It
but
is. Yeah.
that's the blessing that
Yep.
God was able to fulfill that, in a way. But child, we're building over here. And so
Like
that, you
whole,
have to realize that your plans won't go as planned, but you
yeah,
readjust. And in the end, they're for your good if you're
therefore you're
following
good.
his instruction.
I think that that goes back to what you said before. As long as you're in alignment,
Mhm.
you'll be mapping out the proper plans.
Yes. And if you're married, that alignment most certainly means in submission to your husband. Let me just say that.
What?
Because I feel like people don't, it's almost like a touchy subject, and it shouldn't be. The Bible is very clear. So, I just wanted to just say that.
You just slid that one in for free. She said, "Y'all gonna get this goodie today." Mm-hmm.
I mean, we could talk about
Yeah.
it.
People need to understand because I am very much so married, and
Mhm.
I'm very happy. I'm very
Yeah.
happy. I think that it's important, like you said, to be in alignment in all areas,
Yeah.
not just your personal goals and
Absolutely.
aspirations. None of that. Not your personal ministry, but your actual first ministry. If you're married, that's it. You got to be in alignment there too.
Yes.
And it
100%.
will be difficult for those of us who have very big personalities. It's a thing.
And who want to be in control. I am a leader in my own right. So following is not something that comes natural to me.
Mm-mm.
But when you're married, you don't have a choice. And that is a difficult process.
Mm.
That's a difficult process for women who are leaders. And I think a lot of women right now are leaders in their own right. They're independent, they are able to care for themselves. And so that makes submission even harder. I mean, it does.
It does. But submission doesn't have to be hurtful. It doesn't have to be something where you're giving up who you are. And
No,
that's a difference that I think most people don't realize. Like when you're in covenant marriage, biblically founded, like you're not actually giving anything up about who you are. You're actually covering who you are. You're protecting who you are.
yeah,
That's a part of
100%.
what submission is. His role is to protect you.
Yeah.
Not a part of you, not the piece of you that he likes or that listens to everything that he says, but it's actually to protect who you are and what you bring to the table. Your submission covers your life.
Yeah, 100%. My mom also always described submission as an umbrella. And not really submission, yeah, submission, but like the covering that we have because of submission.
That's what I.
It's an umbrella. If it rains, you're not getting hit.
Hello, somebody.
If you're underneath the umbrella of his submission. Now, once you step outside a little bit, you're gonna feel that downpour.
That's
But
it.
if you get back in line, but that's what an umbrella was made to do.
That.
That's what your husband was made to do. He was made to cover you, and he was made to withstand the rain. You are not.
Hello.
When you're married. I'm not
Right.
talking about when you're not married. I'm saying when you're married.
When you're married.
Yeah.
When you're married. Yeah.
You were made to live underneath his umbrella of covering in submission. Because once you're not submitting, you're on your own, sweetheart.
And that's that. that's that. So I hope that you guys took a few notes on that. But it was a blessing for you. So make sure that you did that. So one thing that I wanted to do, we talked about the trust and all of that. But I wanted you to talk about how that self-assessment of your faith kind of helped your understanding of your purpose.
Yeah. I think that I am in a constant state of self-assessment of my faith. I don't think that there's one self-assessment that I can think of that I could say, I self-assessed my faith and now I understand my purpose.
Yeah.
I think that it is a constant, daily, weekly self-assessment. And what that self-assessment looks like, really what we were talking about. Am I in alignment? And I talk about my husband a lot. I talk about submission a lot because for me, as a married woman, alignment starts with my husband.
It does.
Really, usually when I am out of alignment with my husband, it is, I'll say 100% of the time, I'm not even gonna say usually, 100% of the time, when I'm out of alignment with my husband, I'm also out of alignment with God in one area or another. My husband is just like the immediate, like, I hit him a lot sooner.
Yeah.
And God uses my husband to show me when I'm not in alignment.
Your husband's a stopgap.
Yeah. And so typically for married women, what that will look like when you need to self-assess yourself, if you are feeling some friction, don't look at him, look at yourself. What am I doing? Because you can't control him.
No.
You can't control him. And it's a waste of your time, energy, resources, thought to try to. It's going to make things worse. So if there's friction, you self-assess because that's your first notice that something is not right here.
That's it.
Look at yourself and say, all right, Lord, in what way is my disalignment from him showing me my disalignment from you? And if you're not married, that friction that you need to look for is in your life.
That's it.
What is going wrong?
Yeah.
Things always go wrong.
Always.
Things always go wrong. And if you're not talking to God or in relationship with him on a regular basis, he will use your circumstances to wake you up and to show you, hey, you need to self-assess. You need to check your life up against my word and figure out what doesn't go in you.
That's it.
And if ever you feel a certain kind of way about what's in the Bible, the friction is in you. It's not in the word of God. The problem is in you. And so, I mean, and I've read the Bible a few times and been like, I don't like that. I don't like that. And then, you kind of try to go and figure out, what is this passage saying? What is this really saying? No, it's saying what made you feel uncomfortable. That's what you need to change.
That's it.
And so, yeah. And so to answer your question, the self-assessment of my faith, understanding my purpose, the self-assessing never stops.
I love that.
And so, because I'm self-assessing constantly, I'm able to see constantly, okay, am I still on the path to pursuing my purpose?
Yeah.
or am I still pursuing my purpose on this path to
Yeah.
what I feel like is the big thing, you
Yeah.
know?
Yeah. Yeah.
But pursuing my purpose is in the daily. It's in the daily of self-assessing my faith and seeing
Mm,
what God do you want me to do today?
I
And
love
how am I not in alignment with you, or directly for married women with their husband,
your husband's, yeah.
ties them to the Lord? Where am I at?
I, mm, the thing. I love that because it leads us right into our next question about what advice would you give to those who want to give up or who do choose to give up on what they
Mhm.
believe God has called them to do because of how difficult it is to balance it all in the everyday?
Yeah, I would say it
Mhm.
is hard to balance it all. It is hard to balance it all.
That's true.
And sometimes I think that God rested on the seventh day and set that model for us so that we could also rest. And rest isn't always, I'm going on vacation, or rest is sitting in the quiet and just like sitting there in it.
It's a thing.
And just sitting there in it. And because it is difficult,
Yeah.
rest is necessary.
Hello.
Um, and rest being like, Lord, renew my mind in this time of quiet.
That's
In this,
yeah.
because it is difficult. Now, to backtrack, out of the difficulty of the balance and
Sure. Sure.
wanting to rest when it gets difficult.
Yeah.
But before it gets difficult, I would say giving up cannot be an option,
Mm,
because we are not here for ourselves. And I said this
I say it
before.
all the time. Yep.
We're not here. The point of this is not you. The
We're here for
point of
his
this is not
glory.
me.
That's right.
We're here completely
That's right.
100% for his glory. And
Yeah.
if you're not being used for his glory, there's a problem, and you should be scared. Because just like the love of Jesus Christ is real, and the love he has for us, and all of the things that he blesses us
So
with,
is his wrath.
and gives to us, and his grace and his mercy,
Mm.
so is his wrath. And a lot of times we don't want to talk about that. We just
But
want to
it's
talk
real.
about the good stuff. We want to talk about the prosperity gospel. But if you're not
You finna
really
preach,
fully
yeah.
looking, what'd you say?
You finna preach.
But if you're not looking at the whole piece of who he is and his character, then you're in trouble,
You're in trouble.
because you're only operating, your life off of the good things that he says. But you can't ignore consequences. You can't
Mm-mm,
ignore,
mm-mm.
repercussions and what he has said will happen if you are not
Clear.
actively pursuing his glory, and what that means for your own life. So that's why I say, when you get tired, because you will get tired, he
That.
has made room for that
Yeah, he
in
has.
the rest. And I look forward to rest every
Amen.
week. I don't look forward to weekends. I look forward to rest. Sometimes I don't get rest for 2 weeks.
Mm.
Sometimes, like, and those, I call those like seasons. Like,
Yeah.
sometimes seasons are like 2 weeks, and like, even a few weeks ago, we just had 2 weeks where it was everyday meetings,
Oh my
and
God.
then on the weekends we had weddings or we had shoots. Josh did his first executive produced his first short film last week, and so all the
Okay.
lead up to that was it was exhausting.
Yeah,
There was
yeah,
2 weeks, but I knew going into that 2 weeks, this is gonna be like, Jesus, be near,
we gotta
because
ride
this is
together.
going to be, yeah, a lot. But
Mhm.
then we made time for rest because we knew, okay. And so it was really hard, and God taught me a lot through those 2 weeks. But then I was able to rest and say, okay, Lord, I see that that's what you were teaching me. Okay, Lord, I see, I could have acted better in this scenario, for your glory. Like, you self-assess, we're going back to the self-assessing, but you're working hard, and then God gives you grace in the rest.
I love that. I love that. And if we're gonna tie it to anything else that we've also talked about when we talk about marriage, that means the D word shouldn't be in your vocabulary either.
Oh, no, not at all. Oh,
Because
I'm
just like
guilty
you
though. I
said,
definitely
giving
used to
up.
use it.
Yeah, when you said giving up is not an option, the D
Mhm,
word is not an option. And so
mhm.
all of this can apply to multiple areas of your
Oh,
life.
yeah.
Really what this conversation is about, seeking God in the everyday, not the lofty, not when it gets really hard, but your literal every day, because that's where his glory is effectuated,
Mhm,
right? It's
mhm.
how we're choosing to live. It's how
Yeah,
we're choosing to involve him in who we are and where we're going. And I think that that's
yeah.
really important, because then we can talk about how your definition of success has changed with time and how it's affected the way you've pursued your purpose.
Yeah, yeah. No, I think that, like I said before, what I wanted was, being a wife and a mother.
That's
And
it.
so that's that's what success was to me. Like
Mhm.
I felt like getting married at 22, like I beat y'all. Like that's how I felt at the
I
time.
won.
I won. I got a good man. He got a good job. He like got a degree. Like I won. And then I got pregnant 7 months after we got married, and I was like,
Hello.
thank you. Thank you. Yes,
Hand
thank
me
you.
my trophy now. Hello.
Yeah, I made it. I have arrived. Right. And then, shortly after that, I was like, mm, this is great, but this is really hard. And,
That's a lot.
it's a lot. Yep. And so then success changed. My definition of success changed because I realized that success is not based on life milestones. Success is not based on life milestones. Um, and most recently, my I wouldn't call it a realization, but we could call it a realization. My realization of what success is the day that I die, my finish line.
Mm,
When I get to heaven,
yeah.
hearing "well done," that is success. And so I don't think I can't attach success to a milestone or to a
Mhm.
point in life that I've reached, or, I think all of those are fruit of all of those milestones, are like what people would deem as success. To me is the fruit of hard work. It's the fruit of being in alignment with God. It's
Yeah.
the fruit of being in submission of my husband. It's the fruit of being the mother that God has called me to be. But in everything, in the everyday, the I don't know, the goal is living every moment for his glory. And
Oh,
success will be hearing well
I, l-
done.
I feel like you be sitting in my personal conversations, gotta be saying something. I'm like, sounds real familiar. You real nosy. You real. I want you to share the 3 tips that you would share to seek God and build a relationship with Him in the everyday.
In the everyday, 3 tips.
How to seek.
Look for him in every moment. Look
Mm,
for him.
love
Look for it. Look for, what did I do wrong? Look for, what can I do better? Look for, what do you want me to say? You have to train your mind. So that's the second tip. Train your mind.
that's it. Look for Him. Train your mind.
Look
Okay.
for him, train your mind.
Mhm.
Um, train your mind to see him. And the only way that you can train your mind to see him is by reading the Bible. So that's the third tip. Make sure you know what his word says
For yourself.
for yourself. Because in order to see him, once you've looked, you need to have a point of reference for who he is. And you can only have a point of reference for who he is if you know what he has said about himself and about the way that you should live in his word. There you go. 3 tips.
Boom. I love it. I love it. Thank you so much for just
Yes,
sharing that with us and
yes,
really diving deep with us and giving us an opportunity to look from the other side.
of
Because a
course.
lot of us get mired down in the big
Yeah,
instead of the everyday. We
yeah,
forget the details, right?
yeah,
We got the big picture. We know what we want. We know how we want to get there, but we forget the details. We forget the process and we forget to live in the moment. So I have enjoyed my time with you. I hope that you all have enjoyed your
yes,
time with her too. She's been wonderful. But before we go, Karis, I want you to
yeah.
share with the girls how they can keep in contact with you or follow you.
Oh yeah, I am Kariss Farris everywhere. YouTube. I just got a TikTok. I feel young, millennial with a TikTok.
Hey,
Um, Instagram, and my name is spelled KarissFarris.
I love it. Now I gotta ask, Karis Ferris, was it like one of those things that made you like, this is it?
No, it was the thing that I thought this cannot be it.
No.
I was like, no, this can't be. No, God would not. Like literally, I was like, God would not.
What?
I love it.
Right. Right. Cause I mean, for me, when I met my husband, his last name was Pender. I was like, oh, I
I
sound
love
like
it.
legit.
I love it.
Star. Oh, we should get married. We
I
should
love
be
it.
done. So
Yeah.
I love it. I love it. I love it. But I am so thankful for you. Thank you for spending so much time with
Yes.
us.
My
It
pleasure.
was amazing. And
Yes,
I
so much
look
fun.
forward to following you and stalking you on Instagram. And maybe I'll get a TikTok. I don't know if I'm ready.
You know what? I honestly, I got a TikTok for business purposes. I'm
Okay.
trying to learn algorithms. You know, we own a media marketing company, so there's that. Probably wouldn't have gotten it outside of the fact that I need to know it.
See, and that's the thing. I've been told, but I'm like,
Yeah.
I don't know. We're gonna have to see. But again, thank
It's a
you, thank you,
personal.
thank you. You have been wonderful. I hope you have a wonderful day, y'all, and look
Yes, you
forward
too.
to chatting with you all next month. We have an amazing guest for June's table podcast episode. So make sure that you're tuning in there. Make sure that you like and subscribe and share with your girls. I'll talk to y'all soon. Bye.